G'day guys, haven't put up many videos, been too busy doing a lot of things. Been experimenting with various detectors, not just the mine labs. Been looking at a few other detectors, but I keep coming to the same conclusion on all my testing, no matter what the detector is. Within reason, and I'm just going to say mainly to do with pulse induction detectors, the mine labs just have the edge over everything out there. It just does. Um, I'm not a mine lab stooge. I don't have anything to do with the company, and it's just my um, personal opinion. I've asked other companies, if you've got a better detector, you think it's better than mine labs, lend it to me, let me test it. Nah, won't happen. They're sort of tentatively interested, and then they know it'll be put up against the mine labs, and that's the end of that. So anyway, we'll persevere on improving the mine labs where we can. I actually have come up with a complete different design philosophy for these detectors. Now, the hard thing is modifying these detectors is that you're stuck with an initial design concept. It is laid out the way it is, the parts placement is the way it is, and if you want to add or change anything, it's extremely difficult, mainly because you're sort of constrained to what's already there in the initial design. And we can improve it. I mean, I can have a board, sitting out here somewhere, um, and it would be half the size of that board. It would give it massive improvements. But the interfacing is absolutely crazy. That's why you really want to start with a new design from scratch. Anyway, give you an idea on this one. This one here, I've done things a little bit differently. This is a 5000 again. This is another 5000. And what I've done is that I've tried to make it extremely uh, very responsive. We'll call it responsive to tiny, tiny signals. But it also worked beautifully with big gold and big signals as well. But by doing so, it's more susceptible to AC power line interference. As it's sitting here on the bench, I've got all the lighting on, whatever else is on in the place. Uh, it is going to make a little bit of noise, but take it out of the room, it quietens down. And I think, a lot of cases, I was, saying, well, we can get these detectors operating near power lines. Maybe that is, it's good in some instances because you can crank the gain up anyway on these because these are all modified with variable gain and variable frequency. Um, they haven't got fixed frequency as such, like you have a couple of choices or 4 or 5 choices. This, you can vary the frequency on this right across the spectrum from around about 28. If you look at the way I measure it, 28 microseconds to about 40, and that covers basically the whole range of where you'd want to set your pulses up. And it's what the circuitry will handle. I can't go and stretch the pulses out to 50 microseconds long because we've got fixed ratios for the receiver turn on, and you just lose too much initial signal. Unless you're looking for things like unexploded ocean mines or something that are buried on the beach, then it won't make any difference. But you can't just stretch it out and say, she'll be right, mate. You can't do that. You've got to be very, very careful how you do things, and you've got to be mindful that long pulses on these detectors are for big targets that you want to energize at depth. you don't sort of go and run long pulses and put a tiny coil on there. You're still going to get tiny gold, but you're probably going to miss a lot of it because it's not optimized. You put the frequency up the other end, sharpen up the pulses, or should I say narrow the pulses, and as much as you can without the remnants of too much ground signal and coil decay getting into the receiver. If you turn the receiver on too close to after it's finished transmitting. So there's all this criteria, and a lot of it is based also on ground type. You know, if you've got super mineralized ferromagnetic ground, and it's just going to, you know, create a lot of noise. It takes a long time to die off. It's not instantaneous. Depends what other minerals are mixed in there, and you know, you don't want remnants of the ground signal coming into the receiver or too much of it and just obscure your small gold targets. You've got to have everything operating correctly for the ground type, pulse length, coil type. It, you know, a lot of people think this is just slap it together and off you go. Yeah, you can do that. Is by a detector with say an on and off switch on it, and away you go. But you're not going to be able to work every situation. So that's why we put the extra controls on, so you can work different situations. And if situations allow, you can increase the gain. Gain without ground noise will give you extra depth. And with ground noise, reducing the gain can actually increase the ability to hear the target in the first place because it's not being swamped with overbearing ground noise. So that's why we put variable gain on these. You can fine tune it. It's completely uh, like a completely linear range on the potentiometer. You can turn it right down, you can turn it right up. Same with the frequency. You can turn it right down or turn it right up. Where the numbers are on the back of the detector, say you want to put it on, say you want to look for a very tiny gold, so you turn the back manual frequency tuning to say 255, or it doesn't have to be 255, it could be 220 or anywhere in that range. It doesn't even have to be 220, it could be 200, you know, but the higher up you go, the more sensitive it's going to get to small gold. In that regard, the same thing goes down the bottom end. For big gold, deep, you know, you could run it at the manual tune on 50, which will give you very close to probably about 38 microsecond long pulses. And it will be more, will be able to give more energy into those bigger targets for a longer time period to fully energize them, so you can get more return signal. It generates more eddy currents, and when those decay off, that's what you're picking up. So you really want to have a detector that has little tiny pulses for tiny gold and big long pulses for big gold, or big coils, or anything you're looking for that's big. A lot of the guys over in the US and even here that do meteorites, we um, find that they want low frequency and they want a lot of gain. They really want to have a lot of gain because some of these meteorites embed themselves, the bigger ones especially, embed themselves quite deeply into the earth. We've had people who can find them at around about I'd say 10 feet, 3 meters, around those sort of figures for a good meteorite the size of say a bowling ball. They find bigger ones deeper. They find smaller ones closer to the surface. It depends what coil you've got for the job and how you got your detector set up. So there's a lot of things with it. Anyway, I've got this thing here. This is on basically, um, would you believe it's the way it's working? It's actually set for normal gain, but minus 10 decibels. And it's very peaky. It's like a little bucking bronco at the moment because it's picking up the local AC. And because it's the middle of the day, we're picking up, and it's sunny, we're picking up all the solar inverters around the place. So out in the gold fields, you're not going to hear this noise. But even on zero gain, I'm just going to use my 0.05, and you'll be able to hear this pretty easy, I'd say. But now that is on basically the variable gain here set to 0. So very easily 0.05, that little thing there, they can pick that up. And I'll probably lift this up and you can see it on the coil itself. But I'll give you some ideas. It's going to be interesting doing this, but I'll do it anyway. They've got to come down. Bear with me while I pull the legs out of this thing to make it higher. They should have dropped out because I had them loose, but they wanted to stay in there. There we go. Down you go. I'll lock it down. A lot of mucking around doing this, but it, like I say, it's on 0 gain. There's our little coil there. I'm not running the dual. I'm just running these double D elliptical 5x10. It's an absolute. I was going to say something not nice, but the way these double Ds, when you get a very, very small double D, it's I know exactly in my head what I want to say, but I'm going to try and modify it a little bit. There's too much. Well, basically the coils are too small, and they're elongated. You get a lot of cancellation of the initial field, and also in the receiver here, they're not very efficient. They do a job. They're not very efficient. There is an imbalance, but if you're trying to run it in cancel mode, it's a massive imbalance the way it works. They're okay. If you run a double D, run a bigger one. Run something that's round for a start, and try and get away from this very close proximity of receive and transmit windings. Like a coil like that, you're going to have a lot of field cancellation. That's what you're going to get. It's not going to have depth. It's not going to have a good oomph, and it's sort of the way the coils, because they're small, sort of self-defeating in a way. You shouldn't really go detecting with something like this, only if you're specifically looking for like very tiny gold, very very shallow. Um, there's no way known that that's efficient at going to any great depth at all. But anyway, now guys, like I say, I've allowed this thing to pick up all the AC noise, so there's no filtering, and we'll get a 0.05 and just like, and this is in normal mode, mind you. Like I say, I've got the gain turned on 0. The other modes work better, so we'll flick it into, I'll just flick it into enhance. I'll flick it into fine gold. Fine gold's a funny mode. It's very strange. It actually, if you give it a signal down, it'll give a greater peak than either enhance or normal mode, but it has a far field cancelling effect. It's like, it's very peaky even with 0 gain. But the thing is, fine gold as a mode, I've noticed, does not like these type of coils. It just does not like them. Doesn't perform very well. Fine gold tends to go very well on a low capacitance type mono coil. And when I say that, I don't mean these spread winding type coils, which have inefficiencies at getting targets deep. I'm talking about the normal wind coils. Um, like I say, as soon as you start spreading windings out, you're going to lose efficiency. You're just moving the wires closer. Like I've said before, you get something like that, and you say, well, I'm going to run some windings out here, and I'm going to run some windings in here. Well, of course, this is going to go shallower, but you still haven't got this massive depth curve that you would have if all the windings came in, right? You're trying to do too much. It's like you're trying to get gold out here, and you just haven't got enough windings and enough field to get down deep, and then you got the windings in here, which is going to work on small gold down here, but there's no depth to it. It's because all the power is wasted in the other part of the windings here, which is further away from the little tiny gold targets. So you're in a compromised situation straight away. Um, I'll tell you this. I'll give you a practical example of going detecting. Take two coils. Take a flat wound coil of whatever, say 12 inches, and take a normal wind coil of 12 inches. Or if you could get one at 11, you can use the Minelab standard coils. But I don't know if anyone makes a spread winding out at 11 inches. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't use those coils. That's just my personal preference. And what you could do is you say, okay, I've got a small bit of gold, so the inner winding on this thing is, say, 6 inches, right? Then you'll say, okay, we'll get that at 6 inches, and that's our signal intensity. Go over it with a 6-inch coil, a proper one, right? And have a listen to the difference. You will fall off your chair backwards if you're sitting down, but you're probably standing up, so don't fall over, you crack your head. But it makes a big difference. Like on a 12, you could say, okay, we got this target. You use some decent sized target, and you say, righto, we got a bit of depth on that. So I'm not talking stuff that's shallow. I'm talking, you can hear it at depth, decent size, so big, whatever. Go over it with this flat wind coil, then get a designated normal winding 12-inch coil, go over the same target. I guarantee you, it's twice as loud. It'll be twice as loud. It's just too much spread energy, and you're not getting um, a really good dense field out of the coil for those depths, or even shallow, depending what it is. But it'll do a little bit on everything. So you're going to go along, and you compromised for a start using those type of coils. But maybe it's a good patch finder or something like that. But realistically, if you're looking for gold specifically, a particular type of gold in the area, use a coil that's made for it. Don't try and use something that goes everywhere all at once. It just doesn't do it. It just does not. So anyway, what I was saying about this, so we'll put this back on normal mode. And how about I crank the gain up? Now this is what you can get out of these detectors if you are in a quiet environment. Okay, I've cranked it up. So it's in normal mode. Now, the overall interference hasn't come up much, but it's still there. But what you'll find is when you have that noise, it obscures the signal. You can't hear it as well. But if you have a listen to the instantaneous response, it's you can pump the way the integration or the mux works on this a little bit, and you can do that and get massive signals. Now, I'll crank it up even more. I'm probably on about a quarter. Now, it's just upsetting all the DC componentry. As the DC levels change, the detector will scream like that as you adjust it, but it's only while you're adjusting it. So listen to that noise now. It's come right up, and we'll have massive signal pickup. Now remember, this is in normal, and I'm using a 0.05. So see, I can hear that easily. I haven't got the other microphone on. I should have put it near the speaker, but on a normal 5000, you will not get that on normal mode up here. Impossible. It's nearly a scrub the coil situation. So you can hear that quite easily. I'll throw that into enhanced mode. Yeah, signals. See, the signal's getting obscured by the noise, even though we're way up here somewhere. But it does. That's why sometimes, if this was out in the goldfield, it would be a hell of a lot better than what it is here. But it makes it difficult when you've got all this noise coming through. Um, these coils do not give proper cancellation. They just do not. There's an imbalance, and the detector is going to respond to the imbalance by letting noise through. So we'll take it up even further. I'll put it back in normal. Okay. This is flat out. Out in the field, you probably won't have that noise, but this is in normal mode. I mean, it's as sensitive as Almighty, but the signal's going to get obscured in the noise. You can hear it. The detector makes that low tone, but it's the whole front end of the detector's getting swamped by the AC leakage from all the wiring, all the magnetics. It's just getting in. See, I can go over here, and you can have a detector doing that. You're not going to hear the signal probably, well, a little bit, but it's still there. You can't hear it. If I pump it, might be able to hear it. But normally out in the field, that would be up there somewhere on that tiny thing. And I'm running it in cancel too. So it just goes to show that you can't really cancel these out in a high noise environment. It just doesn't work. Anyway, the point of the exercise with this is, on this detector, that this is done in a little bit of a different way, but I've actually came up with a better way to retain the signal, but actually eliminate the noise. That's what I'm working on at the moment, and this is gonna be really, really, really good when I finish it. It's taken a little while to do, but when it's available, um, we'll have to do some sort of deal or something for anyone who's ever had their detector done to get this done, and we'll work out some sort of changeover thing if you want it done. But I really think it'll be very close to being probably one of the best upgrades on any detector you've ever seen. There's a stack of stuff I've done. A lot of stuff is it'll work in this environment really well, but it won't work in that environment. So I'm going to try. Got to try and keep every part of your customer base happy. So I'm going to try and do the whole lot. I'm going to make the detector quiet. It's going to be as sensitive as hell. It's going to go as deep as hell, and basically no compromise on the performance. That's how we're going to do it, and we're going to make it foolproof. There has been cases where people put high capacitance type coils, such as that's a point. That's a 0.1 there. Just went off. I'll just kill the noise on this. Don't need to listen to that. Um, and yeah, go back down on this thing. If I undo that and undo that, there we go. So, what I'm thinking is that we can completely do as much redesign as we can on a single board and interface it into these detectors. This interface will go on the GPs and GPX 45, 48, and 5000. That is the name of the game. It's just that we do a lot of experimentation, but I don't have a lot of time to do complete board design, because what happens as soon as I'm on design work and that, well, what happens? Detectors come in and not getting done. So I've got to balance it between detectors coming in and getting done, and doing the R&D work and the design work to try and squeeze as much as we can out of these detectors. I'll tell you right now, there is a load of gold out there that people have walked over time and time again, and the detectors do not respond to it. There is limitations on all these detectors out there. There is coil limitations. There is the detector itself limitation. There's limitations. There's not one detector out there I would classify as an all-rounder, do everything type detector. It'd be very, very difficult to make, but it can come close. But it's going to take a lot of ingenuity to do it. I've come up with a way of doing it. No one else there has done it. And to that end, I can't just from like, it's hours and hours and hours, actually, probably hundreds of hours that go into this stuff. And I can't go and design something and say, here you are, look at this, and all the commercial interests will jump on it, and they get a free ride. No, it's not going to happen. So from now on, everything is being designed in a way that it will be modularized or in a modular form. And if you try and pull it apart, you'll destroy it. And by doing that, there will be no information gained from pulling it apart in the first place, because I've got some tricks up my sleeve that if you pull something apart, because I've done this before, I had to do it on various projects I've worked on over the years, that if you try and pull it apart, uh, even cut it, segment it, or anything, you won't make heads or tails or whatever it was. You just will not know what was there. So that's what we do, and we can also obscure it to X-raying as well if need be, because I've noticed that a lot of people do not do that. It's very easy to do, to obscure anything to an X-ray, so you can't even see the tracks or pads or anything. So that will more than likely happen as well. So yeah, it's these days it's called protect your IP, protect it. Especially if it's very, very novel. A lot of stuff common stuff I'll just put out there. I don't care, the way, if you go look it up in a book, you'll see it, and oh yeah, that's easy enough. But I think it's time to protect, go into full protection mode. The only trouble is you can do stuff like this, and you can actually come up with such a novel difference of how things done. You can apply for patents on it. The trouble is, when you lodge a patent, great, tells everyone how to do it, because you have to explain how to do it. And it's a real pain, because it's you're sort of defeating yourself sometimes. You really need a massive patent insurance company behind you to do that, to go and hit everyone with the big sledgehammer who infringe on your patents. And it, it's very, very difficult to do anything. in most cases, even the courts will just say, "I'll come to an agreement." That's the end game. Come to an agreement. Organise a licensing, or just desist. Right? It's it's very, very interesting how it all works. I know there's people out there infringing patents on all sorts of stuff, and people don't worry about it. They just, oh yeah, it's patented. But patenting also, well, this is my opinion. Patenting is a way to value add a company, right? It's the naive out there who go, oh, they got patents. It's patented. Oh, no one can do it. Yeah, pigs, right? Patent is used by people that want to raise capital, right? And they use it as a measure to say, oh, look, our stuff's patented, no one can copy it. Yeah, great, but people can improve on it and then over patent and all sorts of things, or patent. If you want to say patent or patent, whichever one you want to use. But yeah, I know people have patented all sorts of things over the years. I've done it too. It's not worth a cup of cold water in a lot of cases. Ask the Chinese. Right? I hate to say that, didn't I? Trademarks, intellectual design, copyright on circuit board designs and all sorts. Ask the Chinese about it. Yep. Yep. I don't know what to say anymore about that sort of stuff. I've just seen so much of it, patent this and patent that. I'll tell you what though, the thing that will give you protection, real good protection on anything, and the way you do it is it's brand protection is trademark, right? A novel trademark, and if you do it all properly, you have got really good protection. You can really hammer people who try to knock off your design, and so forth. There is really good protection there, but patents, yeah, I just smile. Patents, and also patents run out too. So all the good ideas after about 18 or 20 years or so, it's open slather. And if it's the basis of your initial design, well, then you just shot yourself in the foot. Unless you really get into innovating to such a level that you just have to patent every innovation thereon. But a lot of them, there's multiple ways of doing the innovations. Multiple. There's probably 100 different ways of doing every innovation, and you do it in a certain way. Well, guess what? You go and patent it yourself and go and use it on the base designs. You just get around it. That's how it's done. So it's quite amazing. Anyway, so the best way of protection, what I'm saying is, don't patent anything. Just don't worry about it, and design it in a way that you can't get into it. Some of the good ways of doing it now are those little field programmable gate arrays. The protection on those is very, very good, and it's not the sort of thing on some of the some of the manufacturers, you can't even get in there and scrape the top off and start doing junction probes and stuff like that. You can't do it with the way they got it layered. So that's very good protection. The other way of doing it as well is doing things in a particular, I'm not going to say how I do it, but do things in a particular way that if you try and dissolve it, which making sure that you can't dissolve it, it's everything will dissolve in time if you do it right, but you do things in a particular way that what's in there dissolves as well, and it just falls off the board. You don't know where it was. You weren't able to X-ray it. You make sure you can't cut it. You fill it up with carbide. So if you start cutting it, all your cutting implements go blunt, and that's the end of that. And yeah, there's other ways of doing it, but I've got structures that the way I do stuff like that, and all you're going to see is a little black square, and yeah, it will not be got into unless you want something that doesn't work anymore. So that's my take on protection. How's that? That's a bit off topic, but so be it. I've got to do another video. I shouldn't even mention it here because it will be the next video, I think. That I've got some things I've found out about the gold monsters. We have found that there is variances between coils. And I don't know why. I haven't been able to put my finger on it yet. But some coils just tend to be a bit noisier than others. And what actually gave rise to this was someone we did a upgrade on the box, but the detector stayed noisy, and it worked out to be was in the actual coil. So I've got the coil setups here. I've got some more gold monsters in. So I'm going to do a before and after modified one on the actual top unit, and then we're going to do a coil swap over, and we're going to see what happens to the performance if there is a variation. But I've already checked these coils, so I know there will be. But it can catch you out that if you can't get one of these coils and pull it apart. You'll destroy it doing it. The way it's put together, it's got sleeved internal plastic from top to bottom, and it's as thicker than a pencil, and it's in a sleeve, and it's glued really well. It's not made to be pulled apart. And I had to drill them out to get one apart just so I can have a look in a coil. It's a spare coil anyway. It's not actually used for anything, but it's functional. But I had to get in there to see how it was done, and then backtrack it up into the main unit to see how it interfaced. So that's the story there. But yeah, that also I would look at the way that coil's put together as a bit of being protectionist in the assembly. It's not made to be pulled apart and mucked around with. Put it that way, because you wreck the housing and you got a wreck coil then. So can't do that. Apart from that, I've got to get into doing these monsters. So yeah, there's a couple. One sitting under the bench and one sitting behind me, and do a few other little things. But yeah, that's the way we can look at these detectors now. I could sort of say on these ones that we can do this, we can do that, we can do a lot of things, and it's still really, really beneficial. But now, now over the years, I've met people. They say, "I don't care about the noise. I don't care how noisy the detector is. It's got to be flat out powerful and screaming." I had this guy down at Buninyong. He took me out to his area down there, and I could not believe the way he operated the detector. Everything just turned flat out. It was flat out, and I'm going like, how can you actually hear the signals? And he swung it like he was brush cutting. It was like zoom, 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 zoom like this. And I'm thinking, and I said, no, try this. I think it was a 4500 actually. And I gave him the modified 4500, and it was quiet. It wasn't like his screaming banshee box. And he picked it up, and he ground bars. He went over the ground. He goes, "No, I can't use that." I went, "What? Can't use that?" He goes, "No. It's got no punch." I said, "Yeah, righto." So some people you can't even reason with. You can't even educate. He was in brush cutter mode. I think he only detected nuggets that were probably 1 ounce and above or something close to the ground. I got no idea his mentality to do that. Just mind-boggling. So he probably watches my videos and know who he is. But anyway, horses for courses. But yeah, I'd rather a quiet detector which causes less hearing fatigue, because your hearing will just you know, it with time, just hearing the same tone all the time, it your hearing just fades off. It becomes a background noise, and your brain won't pick up on signals sometimes. It just won't. It goes, oh my God, that annoying noise, and it'll go a blip, and you won't pay attention to it because your brain's already in. We're going to tune that rubbish out. So people go. I've seen it myself. People go over gold, and I hear it standing next to them, and they keep walking. You went over a target. Oh, did I? So, sorry, but this is the reality of prospecting. People just don't realise it's not just pick up a detector and go swinging. It doesn't work that way. You've got to know what you're doing. It's funny. It's some of the guys I know, professional, real, actual professional prospectors who do it every day, well, nearly every day, out in the goldfields, right? Over a period of time their gold tally gets greater and greater. The more hours they put on the ground, the more gold they get. They get so tuned into everything that they got, just down to a T. They don't sit there and detect dreaming of what they're doing tomorrow, and you walk over signals. No, they are really on it and dedicated. Some of them um, I've seen in action locally, and one of them, well, actually, I say it's a couple of them are really, really good. And I say, how do you do, what's your methodology? And I just, ask a lot of questions. I want to see if they're doing anything different than what other people or myself is doing. And one fellow in particular, won't mention any names. We're out at up near Barclay, we'll say, up that way, and he had the 4500 and he's gone over the ground and he's goes, "Can you hear that?" And like, well, it's on speaker. We had a speaker hooked up, an amplifier, and he actually says, "Can you hear that?" And I go, "Just sounds like a bit of ground noise to me." And he goes, "No." He goes, "That's gold." And I went, "How can you be so sure that's gold?" He goes, "No." He goes, "That's gold. I know." Well, this guy's been doing it from, I think, about 1970 something. Does it all the time, right? All the time. And he's been a trainer. He trains people how to detect. Well, he used to, but now he's his own man. He does his own thing. But not saying any names. And I said, I wouldn't even dig that. And he goes, "Nah, it's gold." And he digs it up, and it was gold. It was, it wasn't very big. It was something probably under zero point 0.1 of a gram. But I was absolutely amazed he got it. It was in reactive clay too, by the way. And he kept doing it. I can't. But this is a place where other people had been over, and he's pulling these small nuggets out all the time. And what actually got me about this, he wasn't using a tiny coil. He was using a fairly decent coil. I think it might have been standard winding 14, and he's getting these nuggets under the coil winding. So when he went over him, he would get the double blip type thing to him, but he'd only listen to one edge of the coil. He'd go, "Oh no, it's under there," because he know with his swing where he come from, and he would just nut it out. He'd do a stand this way, change 90 degrees, go again, and go, "It's right there." Dig it up, it's gold. So I was really amazed. He can actually tell the difference between lead and gold. His ears are so well tuned into that detector. And I'm blown away. I can't do that. Lead and gold to me sound the same. I can't tell the difference. I can tell bullet casings, right? But not lead and gold. No way. And I don't think many people can, but he had a knack of doing it. I don't know the actual way he could work it out. Maybe it's the initial swing onto it and the backswing. It's a little bit different or something. I don't know. But I was absolutely blown away that just with it's using 45, by the way, 45 detector. And he could ping these little things. So, yeah, he actually got one of my 45s that I did, a specific job for a very low noise detector. And at the time, that's what he was using. That detector, I think he's got his own 45, which is a good one too. But he was saying that this is the quietest detector he's ever put his hands on. But yeah, but what we want to do is we want to get that quietness of what I did in that detector. That's quite a few years ago, and also up the gain in that detector. Get it going really good. But we'll see how we go. Anyway, I'm right off topic. I don't care. Because while I'm talking, I'm actually looking at what I have to do as well. Damn. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that. I'll get onto these gold monsters and I'll do a breakdown of these and we'll see what comes out. Anyway, catches.